Andor's planets aren't just settings, they're battlegrounds where rebellion is born. From the salvage yards of Ferrix to the sterile prison floors of Narkina 5, these worlds reveal the true cost of Imperial rule. Today, we're exploring every planet in Andor, uncovering how they shape Cassian's journey and plant the seeds that will eventually destroy the Empire. The story of Andor begins on Ferrix, an Outer Rim planet sitting at the intersection of several key hyperspace lanes. This strategic location makes Ferrix valuable, but not in the way you'd expect. The Empire doesn't want Ferrix for its resources or military significance, they want it for its bustling salvage markets. Ferrix isn't glamorous, it's a world of scavengers, technicians, and merchants where every piece of junk has value and every part can be repurposed. The planet thrives on its reputation for having some of the best second-hand parts in the galaxy. This isn't just world building, it's a perfect mirror of the rebellion itself, taking scraps and leftovers and turning them into something that can fight back. The people of Ferrix have created something special, a tight-knit community where the time grappler rings out daily routines and everyone knows their place. But this community spirit is exactly what makes them dangerous to the Empire. When Imperial forces begin to tighten their grip on Ferrix hunting for Cassian, they don't realize they're creating exactly the kind of shared resentment that fuels rebellion. Ferrix represents the everyday worlds caught in the Empire's expanding control, planets that aren't politically important enough to be in the spotlight, but are critical to understanding how ordinary people are drawn into the fight. Kenari. Through flashbacks, we discover Kenari, Cassian's true homeworld. This mid-rim planet reveals one of the Empire's darkest tactics, environmental exploitation and abandonment. Kenari was once covered in lush jungles, its grounds rich with valuable minerals, but corporate mining operations devastated the ecosystem, leaving behind toxic waste and abandoned facilities. Official Imperial records claim a mining disaster killed every inhabitant, but we know the truth. Children like young Casa, later Cassian, were left to survive on their own, scavenging through the ruins. The flashbacks to Kenari aren't just backstory, they explain why Cassian's hatred for the Empire runs deeper than politics. He witnessed firsthand how Imperial-backed corporations strip planets bare and leave the consequences for locals to suffer. These scenes show us that the Empire's evil isn't just about Death Stars and Sith Lords, it's about the quiet devastation of countless worlds deemed expendable. Kenari represents the environmental cost of Imperial rule and explains why so many Outer Rim worlds eventually side with the rebellion. When your home has been destroyed by Imperial greed, resistance becomes personal. Morlana One is where our story truly begins, with Cassian making a fatal mistake that sets everything in motion. This dreary Outer Rim world covered mostly in water might seem insignificant, but it represents something important in the Star Wars universe. Corporate governance under the control of the Preox Morlana corporate authority. Morlana One shows us how the Empire outsources its dirty work. The Corpos, those corporate security forces Cassian encounters, aren't Imperial troops, but they might as well be. They enforce Imperial will without the Empire having to spend its own resources. The industrial waterfront cities give way to seedy leisure zones where information and contraband flow freely, at least until Cassian's actions bring unwanted Imperial attention. Before then, places like Morlana One operated in a gray area, with corporations handling local governance while the Empire looked the other way. Morlana One shows us how the Empire maintains control through proxies and how quickly that arrangement can change when the system is threatened. It's a microcosm of how the Empire's reach extends through corporate partners long before Star Destroyers arrive. Aldhani marks Cassian's first real mission as a rebel, and it's a world that perfectly captures the cultural clash at the heart of Imperial occupation. With its lush green highlands and sparkling waterways, Aldhani appears idyllic, but beneath the surface, tension simmers. The native Donnies revere their land as sacred, with their entire culture built around natural rhythms and celestial events, particularly the Eye, a spectacular astronomical phenomenon that occurs every 3 years, but the Empire sees only tactical advantage, constructing an imperial garrison that displaces locals and disrupts their traditions. The heist on Aldhani isn't just about stealing imperial credits, it's about exploiting the one time when the Empire's guard is down during the Eye Ceremony. This mission shows us how rebels must understand both imperial psychology and local culture to succeed. The rebels use the Empire's dismissal of native traditions against them. Aldhani represents countless worlds where indigenous cultures are trampled by imperial standardization and how those cultural differences become weapons in the fight against tyranny. Coruscant. No planet better represents imperial power than Coruscant, the gleaming capital where Emperor Palpatine himself resides. But Andor doesn't show us the imperial palace or military headquarters. Instead, it focuses on the political and financial heart of the regime. Once home to the main Jedi temple and the center of Republic democracy, Coruscant has transformed into a stratified world of privilege and surveillance. The series spends considerable time here with Senator Mon Mothma, showing us the dangerous game she plays in plain sight, funding the rebellion while maintaining her cover as a loyal imperial politician. Coruscant in Andor isn't just a backdrop, it's a character itself, with its endless cityscape divided between the glittering upper levels where the elite reside and the shadowy lower levels where dissidents hide. The stark contrast between Mon Mothma's lavish senatorial life and the brutal realities on planets like Ferrix highlights how disconnected imperial politics has become from the suffering it causes. This world represents the heart of the beast, the political machinery that enables imperial oppression across the galaxy, and the place where some of the most crucial but invisible battles of the rebellion are fought. Niamos. After the Aldhani heist, Cassian escapes to Niamos, a coastal paradise of inviting waters and pleasant beaches. In any other context, this would be a vacation destination, and indeed, that's what Cassian is looking for, a place to lie low with his newfound wealth. But Niamos reveals an important truth about life under the Empire. There are no safe havens. What was once a perfect hideout for those seeking to avoid Imperial notice has become yet another world under occupation, with stormtroopers patrolling beaches and enforcing constantly changing regulations. The sequence where Cassian is arrested for a minor infraction he didn't commit shows the arbitrary nature of Imperial justice. It doesn't matter if you're guilty, it only matters that the Empire needs to make examples and fill quotas. Niamos represents the illusion of escape that many try to cling to, the false belief that you can simply ignore the Empire's reach if you find the right corner of the galaxy. Cassian learns the hard way that neutrality is no longer an option. Narkina 5. Perhaps the most terrifying location in Andor is Narkina 5, a watery world housing a massive Imperial prison complex. This isn't just a jail, it's a factory where inmates are worked to exhaustion, producing components for the Imperial war machine. The genius of the Narkina 5 prison is its psychological torture. Prisoners compete in teams, with the losing teams receiving painful floor shocks. There's no solidarity, only competition, exactly how the Empire wants the galaxy to function. The pristine white environment creates a sterile nightmare where humanity is stripped away and replaced with numbers and quotas. Most chilling is the revelation that no one is ever released, despite promises of defined sentences. When prisoners learn that completed sentences mean only transfers to other facilities, it sparks one of the most daring prison breaks in Star Wars history. Narkina 5 represents the ultimate expression of Imperial control, turning citizens into resources to be used until depleted, all while maintaining the fiction that the system is fair and orderly. The prison break sequence shows how quickly Imperial control can collapse when that fiction is exposed. Fresno appears briefly, but teaches us something important about life away from Imperial centers. This hard-scrabble planet, where makeshift encampments pass for villages and medical procedures are performed in dimly lit tents, shows the reality for many living under Imperial rule. Cassian's recovery here after the Aldhani heist reveals how people survive on the margins through community, improvisation, and staying beneath notice. The rudimentary medical care highlights the disparity between core world luxury and outer rim necessity. Fresno represents the everyday struggle of ordinary people under the Empire. Not rebels, not collaborators, just survivors doing whatever they can to make it through another day. Segra Milo makes a brief but important appearance as the hideout for Saw Gerrera and his partisans. This seemingly deserted world provides the perfect backdrop for a pivotal conversation between Luthen, Rael, and Gerrera about different approaches to rebellion. Their heated exchange reveals the fractures within the nascent rebel alliance. Gerrera believes in direct, violent action, while others prefer espionage and political maneuvering. The isolated nature of Segra Milo reflects Gerrera's isolation from other rebel cells. He's literally and figuratively removed from the broader movement. This planet won't remain the partisans' base forever. By the time of Rogue One, they've relocated to Jeddah, suggesting that Segra Milo eventually became compromised or unsuitable. Segra Milo represents the isolated pockets of resistance that existed before the Rebel Alliance unified, showing us that rebellion began not as one movement, but as many scattered flames that would eventually come together. Minarao appears as an agrarian paradise with fields of grain stretching to the horizon, where humble farmers stake their claim to a simple life. But even this bucolic world can't escape the Empire's influence. The planet serves as a reminder that the Empire's control extends beyond military might. It controls food production and distribution too. Farming worlds like Minarao might seem peaceful, but they're just as crucial to Imperial power as factory worlds or mining colonies. Minarao represents the quieter forms of resistance, farmers who might divert food shipments to rebel cells or provide safe houses for operatives. Not all rebellion happens with blasters and explosions. Sometimes it's as simple as a farmer deciding where their harvest. Gorman is mentioned as a peaceful and prosperous planet in the colonies region, famous for its mountain vistas and the great valleys. Its economy revolves around the production of Gorman twill, crafted from fibers spun by native arachnids. For Star Wars lore fans, Gorman has special significance. It's the site of the Gorman Massacre, where Imperial forces landed on peaceful protesters, becoming one of the catalyst events for the rebellion. While Andor doesn't show this event directly, the mention of Gorman foreshadows the atrocities to come. The planet's economy, where all 9 provinces coordinate to create a single product, shows how worlds become economically dependent on the Empire. When your entire planet specializes in one export, you're vulnerable to Imperial manipulation. Gorman represents the peaceful worlds drawn into conflict not by choice, but by Imperial brutality, reminding us that many rebels never wanted to fight until the Empire left them no alternative. Chandrila, Mon Mothma's homeworld, is depicted as a picturesque haven with rolling hills and dignified traditions. This beautiful world produces diplomats and senators who believe in democracy and dialogue. The contrast between Chandrila's beauty and the ugliness of Imperial politics shows what the galaxy has lost under Emperor Palpatine. Places like Chandrila maintain the illusion of the Old Republic, proper procedure, political debate, traditional values, while actual power flows through Imperial decree. Mon Mothma's Chandrilan background informs her approach to rebellion, principled, strategic, and restrained. Her belief that the Empire can be fought through political means reflects Chandrila's legacy of solving problems through negotiation rather than force. Chandrila represents the fading ideals of the Republic, beautiful but increasingly powerless against the Empire's raw authority. Its continued privilege exists only as long as it doesn't truly challenge Imperial control. Finally, we have Yavin 4, the moon orbiting the gas giant Yavin that eventually becomes the rebellion's main base in A New Hope. This steamy world covered in jungle and ancient temples is perfect for hiding a growing rebel force. Yavin 4's appearance in Andor connects directly to the original Star Wars film, showing us how the rebellion gradually established the base that would later launch the attack on the Death Star. Its remote location and dense jungles provide natural cover from Imperial scans. The ancient temples of Yavin 4, remnants of the long-gone Massassi civilization, serve as a reminder that empires rise and fall. The rebels operate from ruins of a culture that once dominated their region but has now vanished into history, an omen for the empire's eventual fate. Yavin 4 represents the rebellion's growing confidence. They're no longer just hiding in shadows, but establishing permanent bases from which to coordinate galaxy-wide operations. It's where scattered resistance Resistance finally becomes a unified alliance. Each planet in Andor reveals a different face of the Empire's control and the resistance against it. What makes this show special isn't the space battles or lightsaber duels, it's showing us how rebellion began in the most ordinary places. Before Luke Skywalker destroyed the Death Star, countless people on these planets fought their own battles. From Ferrix's scrapyards to Coruscant's Senate, from Narkina's prison floors to Yavin's jungle temples, these worlds tell the real story of how a rebellion was born. The next time you watch A New Hope, remember that 1 in a million shot was the culmination of a fight that began on the planets we've explored today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out more related content shown on screen.